Hey everybody, Alex Kazora, SteelersDepot.com back with some Pittsburgh Steelers draft analysis. Just a couple days until day one of the 2022 NFL draft. And so I wanted to do a short video today to talk about some of my draft dudes, my favorite guys in this draft, not necessarily the best players in this class, but guys I'm super high on. I think will be good value, good talent, make an impact in the NFL. I'll try to keep the commentary on each player pretty brief, break things up to offense and defense, and also give you two players in this class I think who are overrated at the end of this video. But the focus is on the guys I think are underrated and are going to have really strong NFL careers. So the first guy to talk about is Jahan Dotson, the receiver from Penn State. I like a lot of these Penn State guys this year, offensively and defensively. To me, that's just a guy that didn't time with unbelievable speed, but I think is a really fast guy, a dynamic guy deep. And what I like about him the most is my favorite receiver is an open one. And Jahan Dotson knows how to get open with nuance in his route running at the top of his stem, ability to get into to cornerbacks' blind spots and just get himself open. He's a smaller guy, a slender, lankier frame, but he plays big. He's got a big catch radius, good hands, and again, this guy makes just a dynamic impact in the passing game. Next guy on this list, running back Ty Davis Price from LSU. Really came on scene this past year for the Tigers. A lot of guys in this class have strength and power, and they kind of have leg churn to fall forward and get yards after contact. That's pretty common. It's actually a pretty big running back class in general in terms of the size and measurable aspect of it. But few guys have the actual power to run over, defenders and run through them and break tackles the way that Davis Price did. So a really strong year this past year for him. Had an unbelievable performance against Florida. I think ran for 287, a single game school record for LSU. So this guy's got downhill ability, but he's not a plotter. He's not the big 250-pound guy that's going to get 4 yards, run over the linebacker, and that's that. Dude's got really good speed, burst, the second gear into the open field. That's reflected in his 40 time, a 4.48 that he ran in the pre-draft process, and that's really kind of shown on his game tape. He's not going to be the true, long speed guy who's going to break off 70-yard touchdowns, but he does show that burst acceleration to run away from second level defenders. And so he's a little raw in terms of the passing game, really wasn't used there. And I didn't get a good feel for him in pass protection. But I think he's got the size, the frame, the strength, the 1-2. And again, downhill guy with a little bit of lateral quicks and more speed than you would expect from his frame. I think this is excellent value on day three of the draft. If you're a Steelers fan, you love the old school throwback centers. And to me, the guy that really embodies that the most in this class is Luke Fortner from Kentucky. I know this is going to be a really random thought to have, but I watched this guy at the Senior Bowl this year. And the first thing I noticed about Fortner was, all the linemen today, and I'm not mad at them for it. I'm definitely not a lineman, so they can do whatever they want. But so many of these guys, they got braces on, they got sleeves on, they always have some sort of something going on around their knees and around their legs. When I watched Fortner, dude was just in shorts, just shorts and put on cleats and played football. And I don't know, I just something about that was endearing. But more importantly to the tape, he's got a good frame. He's strong. He was part of that big blue wall in Kentucky. So many of those Wildcat linemen are in the draft this year. I think Fortner might be the best of them all. He's experienced. He's technical. Not a bad athlete though either. And I think he's going to be the cliche plug and play center for a long time. Last guy offensively, I discussed him in my quarterback rankings. He's not my number one quarterback, but I'm certainly, I think, higher on him than a lot of other people are. That's Matt Corral from Ole Miss. And with Corral, it just he has that to me it factor, that thing that's hard to explain, but it's just that gamer leadership tough mentality that he's shown, the way that he played through the ankle injuries this year, playing in his bowl game when a lot of guys would have and some at other schools did opt out. But it's not just about kind of those intangible traits. So I think they're really important for the position. If you don't have them, it's tough to succeed. If you're not tough and a leader and someone guys are going to look towards and respect and rally around, his accuracy to me overall was really impressive. Now he ran in a more restrictive offense, Lane Kiffin's RPO heavy system, but that short intermediate accuracy, the ball placement on those crossing routes to hit the receiver in stride to create run after type situations for his receivers was really high level to me overall. He does have a good arm. He's mobile. He's a really tough dude. So I think from a baseline trait standpoint, he checks all of those boxes. Yes, there's some projection there. There's projection with really all these quarterbacks aside from maybe Kenny Pickett, who played in a more conventional pro style offense. So if you want to ding Corral on that, that's fine. But that negative is going to be applied to the bulk of this quarterback class. But Corral, to me, the accuracy is really high level, and he checks those other boxes that are super important to me. And so I think it's a really sneaky pick to have I shouldn't say sneaky pick because he's considered a first round guy, but a guy that I really think could have a good career. Couple names on defense now, and really a lot of them come at safety. This safety class, guys, is really good. It's not talked about enough because everyone talks about Kyle Hamilton at the top of the class, but there's a ton of talent day two, even day three options. So one of those guys who could be late day one, probably more of a round two guy, early day two guy, is Jalen Pitre from Baylor. That's a guy that I've liked since the Senior Bowl. He's rocked up. He's a nickel, played that star position at Baylor. He can play strong safety. He can play in the slot. He's a good athlete overall. He's really physical. He's a downhill guy. He plays bigger than his size, and so that's someone in this kind of you know need for these DBs to be versatile and wear different hats and play in different packages and play in the slot and you know come down in the box and play deep half and stuff like that. Petrie's game is really well rounded. Two guys a little bit more under the radar. Kirby Joseph from Illinois. I watched him at the Senior Bowl as well and kind of caught my attention. In this class and a lot of draft classes, there's plenty of the classic strong safeties, the in the box types that are going to thump and be able to play the run well. You don't get too many free safety types, and when you do, they generally go pretty high in the draft. Joseph won't be a round one guy, probably. I would say probably day two kind of guy, but he's got true free safety range. He played some receiver, actually played receiver a bit, I think in 2020, before switching back to defensive back and largely played that post safety for Illinois. 5 interceptions last year, has great range, tracks the ball extremely well at high points of the football, plays like a receiver because he's been one before. His tackling isn't the best, but it's serviceable. And, the guy has not played a ton of football in terms of being a starter. 12 starts overall, 10 this past season. I think his best football is ahead of him. But you're looking for that day two rangy free safety. Look for Kirby Joseph. Another safety I really like in this class is Joey Blount from Virginia. There's some medical concerns with him. He's had some health issues in his career, but when he's been healthy, he's been really productive. He's a quick trigger guy. He comes downhill. He fills the alley well. He's a good tackler overall. He's smart, instinctive, was really a leader and kind of captain of that defense in terms of getting guys in the right position when he wasn't available, when he was hurt. That defense really took a step back. Their head coach Bronco Mendenhall has admitted as much. So there's some medical concerns there, but the guy tested excellent at his pro day. He was a combine snub. Pittsburgh has shown interest in him, brought him in for a pre-draft visit. Joey Blunt, to me, you take him anywhere on day three, I'd be happy. Last guy on this list, another Penn Stater, Arnold Ebiketie. The edge, to me, he's a first round talent for sure. You hear so much about the top guys in this class, the Aiden Hutchinsons of the world, the Kayvon Thibodeaux of the world. But to me, Ebiketie could be just as good as those guys from a pass rush perspective. There's some questions about being able to set the edge in the run game and hold the point of attack, but his burst, his bend, he ran a sub 7 second three cone, a 6.95 at his size, and he was really productive this past year for Penn State. He was a transfer from Temple, made that jump up in competition, and had some really impressive performances. So there's some work on consistency in the snap count. When he times it well, there's burst, but he's got to be a bit quicker to be more consistent in terms of firing off the football. But even with that issue, he still put up good numbers this past year in Happy Valley, and so that bend, ability to dip the corner, get to the quarterback. You need pass rushers more than you need run defenders, and Ebiketie, to me, is one of the best pass rushers in this class. All right, let me give you two names I think who are overrated. The first one being Tariq Woolen, the corner from Texas San Antonio, UTSA. I know he really wowed at the combine for running an unbelievably fast 40 time, sub 4.3. He's big, he's long, he's what the NFL looks for to match up against some of these really, large and dynamic outside receivers. But what I worry about him the most is just that stiffness and tightness in his hips. He's a really long, lean frame. And when you have those guys that are I think he's like 6'3". You get some of that stiffness when you have to turn and change directions and make some of those nuanced movements the cornerbacks are going to have to make. And you look at his agility times, they were really poor, and that's kind of reflected in some of that stiffness and just how tall he plays because he's 6'3". It's hard for him to really bend his knees and keep his pad level down. So I understand the allure of it all, a former receiver, so he's got good ball skills overall. But I just don't know if he's going to be able to make it. I think he's a really good athlete, a really impressive kind of tools guy, but will it translate into being a good football player down to down with that tightness? That's a big concern for me. Last one here is Drake London, the receiver from USC. Potential first round pick. Still could be the first receiver off the board. There is no clear consensus. I don't think it'll be him. I think it'll be more Jameson Williams from Alabama being the first receiver taken. The thing with London, and I've fallen into this trap in the past of, is really loving those jump ball guys in college. You know, the big 6'4", 6'5" guys, which London is, that kind of is able to sky up, be like a power forward, and go get the football. And those guys certainly can work in college, but the NFL, the game's more nuanced, the talent's a lot closer. When you're posting up against some, backup corner, even a starting corner, a lot of schools that, guy that's not going to play in the NFL, it's a different story than when you're actually at that next level. And there's been so many examples of big receivers who like really impressive college tape, jumping over guys and scoring touchdowns in the red zone on fade routes that didn't work in the NFL. N'Keal Harry, Hakeem Butler, a couple names that come to mind, like Quan Treadwell, a more high profile name as well. And, maybe London's a little better athlete than that, maybe, but he hasn't really gotten the workout in this pre-draft process either to get times on him. So I'm just really wary of those guys that are the big power forwards that look good in college that can leap over guys because it's a skill to win contested consistently in the NFL is a really tough thing to do. And like I said earlier, the best thing I want in a receiver is someone who can get open. And I worry about London consistently separating, getting open. And if he can't do that, that's going to be a big issue. So that's my list of guys I really like and a couple overrated names as well. Let me know, who are your draft crushes, the guys that you would bang the table for and say, this guy's going to succeed in the NFL. What guys are overrated? And you're sitting there saying, is some team's going to overdraft this guy and really be unhappy and regret that decision? Let me know in the comments below. Please like and subscribe if you have not done so already. Appreciate you guys watching, and we'll talk to you soon.